Namaste, all of you. Good afternoon. Today, I have a women scientist. So the term is extremely in fashion now, especially after the movie Bollywood attempt to make a movie on the women scientist. And we have not heard of many women scientists in our history, or rather, we have forgotten about them. But today, I have Dr. Sangeeta Kale, who is lot of feathers in her cap. So let me count it one by one. She is currently working as a director for policy and planning and professor of physics at Defense Institute of Advanced Technology. It is called DIET, which is funded by Ministry of Defense. And she is also director of Nayukti Innovations Private Limited, which is into startup and incubation initiative. Also, Dr. Sangeeta is graduated from University of Pune, but later on she has become a scientist in nanotechnology. So what is it, and also her contribution in this field? Plus, she has guided more than 70 PhD students in this particular field, which is prestigious. It is not any other subject. It is a nanotechnology. And second thing, she has 115 international research publications under her cap. Also, she has published a couple of books and also some of the papers which are extremely important from this particular technology point of view. And she also has written a number of science columns in science newspapers. Also, she is a blogger, and that's not enough. She is a fitness enthusiast. So she is a national international marathons, sports car rallies, and she loves long distance cycling. So this and all that and more than this we'll discuss with her. So let me formally welcome Dr. Sangeeta Kale to Diva program. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, KTK, for inviting me to this very nice platform of Diva. It's really an honor to come to a platform of Diva because that itself is you feel good about it. I've seen the earlier talks of which have been covered under this, and I'm really enthusiastic about interacting with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Pleasure is all mine, and you are most welcome to this platform. The whole idea of this initiative is to bring all women from all walks of life to inspire people, and of course, to inspire women. And you are one of my wonderful guests today. So, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Sangeeta, physics is something not attempted by women so easily. Most of them either do not take science, and even if they take science, they prefer biology or medical science or something similar to it. But physics is something which is unique. You always wanted to become a scientist, or no?
Yeah. So this question has been asked to me many times because it's really true. In my entire journey of my career, I have seen very less women in physics. However, actually, I should tell you that I have always liked physics. Right from my school days, I was always interested in science and also mathematics. I was not very good in mathematics though, but I always liked science as subject. And as a child, I remember that I had kept a small diary of myself, and I used to write every day or once in a week also some interesting things that I used to know about science. For example, kaleidoscope. I had written an article on kaleidoscope during that time. Then, how does a camera work? I always had a passion of science, and that must be the reason why I must have taken science. Actually, I have no other thought. If I would not have taken science, I would not have done anything.
Okay.
So yeah, I have never liked commerce per se or arts per
Arts
se.
per se.
So
Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
science was my only thing I
Natural.
could do probably.
Okay.
Yeah,
Natural choice.
natural choice. Yes.
Right. So, Doctor, what is this institute all about? The Defense Institute of Advanced Technology.
Yeah, so DIET is basically a university. So it's a Defense Institute of Advanced Technology. It's a deemed university, which is supported by Defense Ministry, Ministry of Defense. So the Defense Minister of India is the chancellor of our university. So that is the way in which it operates. So we have the defense minister, then we have the vice chancellor, and then the university is like that.
Yeah.
And its mandate is to basically train and do research in the domain of defense. So it is basically for the DRDO scientists, and it is also for the services, that is Army, Navy, and Air Force people. They come to us for their higher studies. They also come to us for their PhD program.
Yeah.
And also the short-term training courses routinely are conducted in DIT. So the main mandate is for defense, and we also have a small component of civilians.
Okay.
So yeah, so we do have civilian component, but it is like 30%. Rest all this 60-70% is coming from the services and Army, Navy, Air Force, and DRDO.
Okay, so all three services, tri-services are covered in this. And what kind of applications or technology specifically do you focus on?
Yeah, so first of all, it's not an undergraduate place. It only has a post graduation. So we only have a master's and a PhD program, and everything is related to technology, in the sense that we do research in the domain of aerospace engineering, then guided missiles, also related to laser systems, optics, communication. So think robotics, then cryptocurrencies and cryptographies. So cyber security. So all the topics are mostly related to technology, and they are related to technology pertaining to defense. So that's the mandate actually.
Okay.
We would have all the advanced topics, right from robotics to quantum technologies, and so on and so forth.
Right. So, Doctor, what is your role in this entire process?
So I work mainly as a professor in physics. So my job is to teach the topics in physics, but mostly they are related to advanced materials, smart materials, and also I have to do a good amount of administration. So I work now. I work as a director of policy and planning.
Yeah.
So my job is to basically identify what would be good for the institute in 5 years, in 10 years, and in 15 years or so, and put it up on the academic platform. Other than that, earlier I worked also as a dean academics and dean of research and so on.
I saw that.
So
yeah.
So for some time, I also worked as a vice chancellor of this place. It has come to me. I mean, I was not ready for it, so it came to me much early in my career. I would not say I really liked it, but I learned a lot during that tenure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a very deserving candidate, and we are really proud of you for that. So, Doctor, how many women come to you to do their post-graduation or PhD?
Oh, wow. This is a very good question. So, women, before diet, I was in Ferguson.
Okay.
So during that time, we had a lot of girl students.
Correct.
They were many. But as I entered into diet, first of all, in physics, there are less number of women.
Right.
And secondly, it is a defense organization, so the women are further less.
Right.
So as a person in career, I myself have faced a problem that most of the committees I would be the single women
sole representative.
In terms of students, of course, the students have always been very few girl students. Yeah. So you can say around 15 to 20%, 15% should be a good number in the institute, and further less in physics. So it's further less. Yeah.
The reason behind asking this question is why and when there will be a full-fledged military school for girls for my nation.
Okay. See, I would say the following. We have seen the Defense Minister Nirmala ji. She was the Defense Minister of our country. So I would make a general statement that even if you consider countries like US, or even if you consider countries, any other advanced country, women representation has been very less.
Yes.
As against that, in our country, we have seen a prime minister also as a lady,
Yeah.
and very good Indian ministers also as a lady. For that
Absolutely.
matter, a defense minister as a lady.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in that sense, I think we are good.
Yeah.
In that sense, we are good. However, for defense services, the answer is two-way, because in one way, wherever there is a domain of army, we do not expect many women there. If you consider Navy and Air Force, we expect women there. Army is a different game altogether. So, so if we leave that aside, then I would say that there are many schools which have women candidature. Indian Naval Academy, which is in your Cochin, Indian Naval Academy has got good amount of girl
candidature.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like that, we also have schools for Air Force. Then I'll tell you that there are schools also, they do not have very good affiliation. Like in Pune also, we have Rani Lakshmi Bai School, which is of Maharashtra Education Society.
Yes.
And it is a school for getting girls equipped to come into the tri services. Okay. So I would say that the efforts are there, but it's a synergy from both the sides. So we have to wait till from both the sides things converge, and we have good amount of participation.
Right. So I think there are some nations which prepare all of their citizens for war, whether it's there or not. The whole idea behind is physical fitness, and as situation arise, they should be everyone prepared to defend it in their own capacity. That is something which we really need to uplift or rather gear up for, because one is definitely the physical fitness part, and second thing, we have a good amount of young youth population, and which can be a very capable mass for this workforce if required. So that kind of as you rightly said, there are efforts required from both the sides. Even the society has to be prepared for this option as a career. Okay. In between, some years back, I don't remember the name. You can say I did not do homework, but I remember the name called Big Bang Theory and Higgs boson theory, and it was a news in all possible medias. Where is it now?
Big Bang Theory, and also actually it was the work on gravitational waves.
Yes.
And Einstein had actually postulated that there would be something called as gravitational waves, and that would be it is a kind of a ripple, it is a kind of a wave which would touch upon, or which would dash upon the space-time fabric, as you say. It is a fabric. Fabric is like a weave of space and time.
Yes.
So, and when there would be these kind of reverberations, one would be able to witness that. So this is what he had postulated centuries back.
Right.
And then recently, so the problem is the following, that even if you say that this is a theory, if in order to prove it, you need to have good amount of technology and infrastructure. So the technological infrastructure was recently developed. So this was in 2015, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So in 2015, this LIGO, this is a laser interferometer for gravitational observation. So this laser interferometry was well established. And it was established in such a way that even if there is a small disturbance, this entire interferometer would be able to identify it.
Okay.
And that is how they found out that there would be, and they found out that these gravitational waves really do exist. and they showed data on these interferometric displays. So now, if you ask me what is the situation now, so now the situation is actually good. So I think I have read it in Scientific American, which has come recently, that more than 25 observations they have made repeatedly to actually find out that really the concept is true. So they have actually proved that if there is a black hole formation, or if there are two heavy bodies in colliding with each other, then you will always have this kind of disturbance in the space-time, and you will be able to see it on these interferometers.
So it's an expansion of space. That's what you're saying?
Actually, no. It is just understanding of space.
I see.
It is just understanding. So you are understanding it better. So black hole, as the name says, it was a black hole. So people were not able to understand it. Now they really understand that, okay, so if there is a formation of black hole, one will be able to see the effect. If there are two huge bodies colliding to form a black hole, you will be able to see the effect. So that is the state as of now.
Okay, wonderful.
On this note, I'll say also one small thing that people may ask, like just like you asked that what's now. So technology has been a very funny thing. So it comes up as an application like for Big Bang, explanation of gravitational waves. But once that interferometer comes up, it gives rise to so many other applications and so many other industrial sectors, get a solution. So technology is not only in one direction, it opens up to large community of industries, and they all become better. So it is useful in very many other ways.
Sure. Thank you. Now you just mentioned in your answer that the required infrastructure and the setup is available now. So I want to ask you two questions in this context. One is, how is the research different in India and outside India from all point of view? Second, I want to ask you is, having taken that into consideration, what is the future of nanotechnology or material science in our nation?
Okay. The situation of research in India vis-a-vis the situation of research in any advanced country, there is a good difference, I should say. The difference is related to one fundamental thing. Now we see in the current recent years, we can say last 4 or 5 years, we see the change, but it's not so dramatic. The basic difference is this, that in most of the advanced countries, the research is always funded by the industry. So, for example, I did my research in University of Maryland at College Park. I have had all the funding from the institute, from the industries. For example, Intel Corporation, Motorola, NASA. Okay, so I was funded by NASA for a good amount of time. Now, when this happens, then naturally the research is more application oriented, because they want a particular thing, they want it in a particular time, and they want it to be very well done. That's not true in India, unfortunately. So here what we have is the government is supplying the funding. It comes through different funding bodies like DST and DBT and things like that. And then it becomes government's money. So in some sense, one could do a blue sky research, excellent research. I would not say we have a lot of good publications, but then it comes at the publication level and maybe it stops. It doesn't come to the social arena. It doesn't come to a common man, which is different there. That is one fundamental difference. Because of this, now the situation is changing, and now I'm sure, because now we have good companies here in India who would want to do fundamental research, and because of this Atmanirbhar and Make in India policies, a lot of people are trying to do research in that. Now, the second question of nanotechnology, how far has it reached in India? I would say to a great extent, because it's a good news actually, because pharmaceutical industry overall in the world and also then in India
Yes.
has got a good impact of nanotechnology.
Uh-huh.
So the improved drugs, drug delivery agents,
Yes.
Biosensors,
Yes.
sensors in general, miniaturized sensors, all these are a reality in India and otherwise. And all this is because of this nano technology, which also combines with many other technologies as well to form a new domain.
Yes.
Not only pharmaceutical but textile industry, then a little bit of automobile industry, then the FMCG, as we say, the fast moving consumer goods, air conditioners, water filters, everywhere you find the technology to be improved because of nanotech. So we have a good presence of technology in industry now,
and
even in
and
India.
future as well.
Future as well, yes.
Definitely. Coming back to, I mean, we'll come back to this, but just now when I am going through the thing once again, you were also a part of Lilavati Foundation. And,
yeah, it's a Leela Poonawalla Foundation. Yeah, yeah.
And I want to have a special mention about the book that you have written called Lilavati's Daughters.
Lilavati's Daughters. Yeah.
And which is talking about the Indian women scientists.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it for a minute and then we'll get back to the questions once again.
Yes, yeah. So these are two different things. So Lilavati's Daughters is a compilation of monograms of Indian women scientists. It is compiled by Indian Academy of Sciences, which is in Bangalore. So they invited me to write a chapter there. And I wrote it many years back, actually, it must be a decade back. I always, when I read it, I always feel I would have written better now.
Of course.
So, yeah, but it was a good experience, and yeah, it was a good experience. It looks good also on the resume.
How many scientists you could mention in that book, Sangeeta ji?
So I was one amongst them. So I think there are around 30 to 35 women scientists.
All are existing.
Actually, it is not scientists. It is women in different domains.
In different domains. Okay.
In different domains. So it is not just scientists.
Scientists.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So I made that mistake there. So,
okay.
Yeah. And Leela Poonawalla Foundation is something that happened to me recently. It was one of the best things that has happened because I was not inclined towards the social, the social angle of a human being. I mean, everybody has to give something back to the society because you learn, you take a lot from the society. So you might as well do that. So Leela Poonawalla is a very well-known name. So she actually invited me to be on the board of trustees of LPF, and I was thinking that what would I do in this, but she said you start with contribution to the education and then you can think. So I would really want to tell this that this platform is basically for the downtrodden girls, the girls who have zero background.
Right.
You can say negative background.
Right.
They actually, their parents are totally illiterate.
Yeah.
They look at a girl only from a angle of a burden. Yes. And they just want to finish it off by getting them married, or they put them to work or for any. So when I've actually seen it myself that when a girl comes to the Leela Poonawalla Foundation, she applies, and when she applies, that it is so much of applications that one has to actually filter down and see those girls who are actually good in education. Yeah. So who have done well in their studies and so on. So using some basic, the students are selected for narrowing it down further. And then the interviews are taken. So when the girl first comes for the interview, every girl has no confidence. They cannot even walk properly. Right. Even if they sit, they are not able to look at you at all. Yes. They have no confidence. And the parents come to just for the heck of it, they come. So the foundation will give them money to Baba bus se aa jao, and just get the girl.
Okay.
And when you see them after 1 year, because the LPF does a lot of grooming of the students, they give them a lot of good exercises to do. They take English sessions, they too take communication sessions, mathematics, everything is extra more than the school can give. And the school is also taken in confidence. So it's not that it is doing it independently. LPF does it along with the school.
Schools, okay.
Schools. And after 1 year, they look different. The kind of phenomenal change that you see in them, actually you feel that you have done something for somebody. So that was an ultimate pleasure, and I have really enjoyed it from the bottom of my heart. I've seen the transformation of so many girls, and then when they represent themselves in somebody in Veritas, somebody in Infosys, somebody is in some good companies like Mercedes-Benz and so on, their life has totally changed. The family looks different. I mean, you really feel that you're giving something back to the society through LPF. It's not a personal thing, but still very satisfying experience I had with this foundation.
So the transformation makes you happy.
Yes.
Definitely. Okay, let's come back to our original subject once again. What kind of a future or a career a student can have? See, all cannot aspire to become a army man or a naval or air force thing. They attempt it, but sometimes they cannot succeed, and then they still want to be in the same domain. May not be doing a groundwork as such, but something related to it. So, can they have some sort of an option in this technology?
Yeah. You mean how can they have career in services, but not in
actual
the core, not in the core.
Yeah.
So there are many actually. So there is something which is called as staff selection category.
Yeah.
So there they take the candidates who have completed. I'm not very sure about this, but they take candidates who have just completed their graduation or even 11th and 12th. And after that, they cannot become officers per se, but they can become the rest of the staff of the services. So somebody may be in accounts, so somebody may be in some other category of training the schools for the trainers, for the clerical staff, things like that. So they can still be a part of, because this is a very huge it is a huge organization.
Yes.
So there are all kind of people who are required. So staff selection,
and they can also get into your kind of career path, wherein they can be in a research and
of course, they can do that. But I was talking about the scale of education. So if the scale of education is rather limited, then they can go for these kind of jobs. If of course, if they get educated to a bigger this thing, then there is no dearth of opportunities.
Yes.
There is no.
No, because I also heard that there are various domains like chemical, biological, radar technology, and also the research that you are doing particularly, for example. So these options are also available if somebody wants to be in this related work, but cannot be on the ground as such.
Yes, one can do that. Actually, now it is an era, we can say, of interdisciplinary studies. So there is nothing called as core electronics or core physics or core mechanical engineering. There is nothing like that.
Yes.
So all these technologies that you just mentioned, like radar technology, or even aerospace engineering, now has changed so dramatically now. These days, for example, carbon neutrality and energy efficiency has come into mechanical engineering. It has come to modify aerospace engineering as well. Interdisciplinary research gives a lot of applications and opportunities for people in biology, also in physics, also in chemistry, also in mathematics. Because algorithms and machine
Yes,
learning
yes,
require a
yes,
lot of
yes,
those
yes.
that
Because
background
a
for
lot
it.
of advanced technologies are also used in forces now, and there is a need of such caliber as well.
Definitely, 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 definitely.
Sangeeta ji, one more thought comes to my mind that mm, you also have a DRDO Science Orator Award in 2014.
Yeah,
Yeah. So what was that for? First of all, congratulations for that.
thank you.
But just let us know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so Science Oration Award. I would not say it's a very very big award as such, but we had when I entered into Diet, I wrote a very big project
Hmm.
in which around 9 different DRDO laboratories were involved.
Mhm.
And along with 7 more colleagues of mine, I was
Mhm.
working as a principal investigator.
Mhm.
But we were a team of around eight people,
Mhm.
and we wrote a project which was basically to give 9 different technologies to the 9 different laboratories.
Okay.
So this was related to chemical and biological warfare diagnostics. Then it was related to better propellants and explosives. There were many. It was also related to healthcare,
Yeah.
For better health and bullet injuries to be quickly, healed. So we wanted to use nanotechnology in every aspect of it, and this was a very good and a successful project. So we could develop different technologies, and we transferred the technology to these 9 different laboratories. Probably that was one of the main reasons why I should have got a Oration Award. But it was a joint effort of all of us.
Of course, definitely.
Yeah.
But you were part of that nanotechnology-based radar, and I think the sensor technology,
Yes.
especially.
Yes.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, in the beginning, as I said, you are a fitness enthusiast and a car rider and a bicycle lover. So, how do you find the time for it? Because what I have picture in front of my mind is uh, scientists are the one who are completely neck deep in the research work, and they simply do not have any awareness of the surrounding or any social life for that matter. How do you
Yeah.
spare time for such things is what I wanted to know.
Yeah. I have come across this question many times. So I'll tell you that. So let me put it up in this way, that there are two things in everybody's life. One is something in which you are good at, and one is something that you like to do. So I would say I'm good at research, and I also like to do research. There's no doubt. But then I also like to play. So I was a good player when I was in school.
Mhm.
I'm not a very good player, but I played till district level. I was a good badminton player.
Okay.
So I have always loved sports. And to be very frank with you, I'll tell you that sometimes in my career life have not been very good. I have faced problems due
Yes.
to internal politics, and there have been highs and lows.
Yeah.
So when I was going through that kind of a trough, as you can say, I was thinking that what is it that will make me more positive,
Mm.
and that's how I came back again to fitness.
Sports. Okay.
Yeah, and I started with gym
Mm.
training,
Mhm.
and that changed my perspective to a very large extent.
Mhm.
Then I could find time actually. So if you want to find time, you can definitely find
Definitely
it.
fine.
Yeah, because it's your passion.
Yeah.
So for passion, you
Absolutely.
do find. And
Yes.
then once you're there, then you find right people also there, and then they bring you. So it's a positive loop.
Yes.
So that's how the car racing happened, and that's how the marathon running also happened. So I just did it because I just liked it, and
Liked
the
it. Yes.
fitness helped me,
Definitely.
luckily. So I had a good fitness coach.
Mhm.
So he was instrumental in really making me fit to do what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And yeah, So,
Great,
so
great.
it's a passion. Yeah.
Definitely. Now that you just now mentioned, this gives rise to one more question. Are women scientists encouraged and supported sufficiently in your profession, or there is also a gender bias um, lookout?
I would say that gender bias is always there. You will not find gender bias missing anywhere. To
Yeah,
be
any
very
profession for that matter.
in any
Yes,
profession.
yes, yes.
Furthermore, if you are pertaining to a defense sector, then it is a bit more also
Even more.
because
Yeah.
because there are nobody and people don't want to take orders from a women, so
Hmm.
it is always a problem.
Hmm.
However, it is important that the next higher up in your hierarchy, if that person is good, you don't feel it, feel the bias. And for that matter, I have been quite fortunate. So I have got good people who were seniors to me.
Mhm.
But of course, there have been times where it has been very, very bad.
Hmm.
So exactly that was what I was mentioning with the political bias. But if you have, so that was a small time, and if I ignore that time, then I could say that if you have good peers and if you have good immediate senior, the highest senior doesn't help. The immediate senior is important. So for me, it was always a vice chancellor, and they have been good. Most of them have been good, I would say. I would not say all have been good. Most of them have been good, and that then you don't feel it. But I would say that for every meeting, you are the only lady. For every discussion, you are the only lady. So that is a problem. But there is no solution,
Yes.
For that, there is only one solution, that I bring in more women.
Correct.
And I have been trying to do that. So
Wonderful. That's nice. Because as you said, you have to live with it, and you got to prove that you are no less or nowhere less or nowhere incapable in this position, and you got to
yeah.
prove yourself time and again. Understood. Uh, how about any message that if you want to give to the youngsters? There are two types of youngsters I'm talking about. First of all, one who are disoriented about their career, and second one who could not go for engineering and they went to science, and then they think they cannot have a lucrative career as engineering background or army background for that matter, and then they can take it in a very different manner. So I want you to address to these two youngsters.
Okay. Um, First of all, I would want to say to the youngsters that engineering is not everything now. First and foremost, gone are the days of the country also when only engineers were required. And gone are the days when we had a lot of engineering colleges cropping up here and there, and trying to take as many students as possible, and then give them no jobs, because then there were no jobs. It is just the balance had gone the other way. So not everybody needs to be an engineer. However, and because of the interdisciplinary nature of of the technology as such, there are many opportunities, right from somebody who is able to just to be very frank, just to able to do data entry. Somebody as simple as that kind of a job can also do a lucrative career now, because now with this big data coming up and data science coming up, there are a lot of opportunities there also. One need not be very intelligent in coding. So what I want to say is opportunities are many in this area. One more thing which has dramatically changed and which is very good for the youngsters is this, that every profession now in our country has got a value. And it is very different from earlier time, right? From fashion designing to doing something which is related to music or arts or putting up your studio or even doing a rap, for example.
Yes, yes,
Everything has got a kind of a market now.
yes, yes.
So, so I would say to the youngsters that do not look for a job per se every time. You can do many things on your own as well. And those opportunities you'll find on the internet, on the net, on the online platforms these days. And like, for example, earlier we had only one TV and one channel. Now we have so many channels. Not everybody goes to a movie theater now. We are happy with Amazon Prime also and Hotstar also. So if you think on those lines, then these many channels have opened and so many different technologists are required. Good cameramen are required, photographers are required, and so on and so forth. So opportunities are unlimited. However, one has to be very vigilant. So the vigilance is something that I would address all the youngsters to have. They have to be very curious. They have to be very ambitious, and they have to be very vigilant. So these three qualities, if they have, then the sky is the limit. Now nobody wants to do a routine 9 to 5 job. Everybody would want to do something on their own, create something for their own passion. So this is what I would like to tell the youngsters typically.
And also somewhere I think they also should know very well that there is no shortcut to hard work. So whatever they choose, they have to do the things persistently and sincerely to get the success.
Yes. They have to be with it, be on it, and they have to ensure that they have to have sleepless nights. Then only they can see the light of the day. So yeah, nothing comes easy. Even if it is a glamour thing, it has got a lot of
hard work.
sweat there.
Yes, definitely. Okay, that's all I had, and it was great and wonderful to talk to you, and wishing you all the best and many more endeavors and many more awards at the same time. Very good health. So please take care of yourself, and thank you so much for your time. Dhanyawad.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me, and it was lovely interacting with you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Okay. Namaskar. Bye.